In this section, we're going to look at the access request form, covering obtaining the access request form, completing the access request form, and supporting a person to complete their access request form and how to submit it. The first barrier with the access request form is obtaining it. The primary way of getting it is to call the Ndia on the 1-800 number listed on the screen. If a person doesn't have access to a phone or experiences symptoms of their condition that prevent them from talking on the phone, then this can be almost impossible. You can also head into your local Ndia office to obtain the access request form or visit your local area coordinator. Another option is to make a verbal access request. You can support someone to make a verbal access request by calling on their behalf with them there, so they can give their consent for you to help them over the phone. By liaising with our target group, we found a significant barrier for many was the complex and detailed nature of the access request form, particularly when poor literacy skills are common. You can support someone to submit a verbal access request where all questions will be asked over the phone. One drawback with this option is that supporting documentation must be submitted within 28 days of making the verbal access request. This is why it's helpful to start gathering the supporting documentation before obtaining the access request form. Part F of the access request form should be completed by a medical practitioner. As with supporting letters, language is very important. Part F should identify the primary disability and evidence that it is likely to be lifelong.
Seeing a medical practitioner to get Part F of the access request form completed can be traumatic and demoralising for the person applying for the NDIS. You can help with this process by supporting the person to prepare for this. Explain why the process focuses on deficits and remind them why they're going through the process in the first place. Through consultation, Project Embark identified that there are often long waiting lists for people to see a medical practitioner, particularly in regional areas. Many GPs may not be familiar with the NDIS and have not received any training on it, so they may not be clear on what is required when filling out an access request form. Medical professionals are not used to the deficit-style nature of the language preferred by the NDIA. A GP may not be familiar with the patient, particularly if the person has not had much engagement with medical services or doesn't see a regular GP. These factors can mean the GP may be reluctant to complete the form or are prevented from completing it well. It's important to book a long appointment so the GP has enough time to complete the form. It can be helpful to attend the doctor's appointment with the person you're supporting if they're okay with this. This way you can upskill the GP by discussing why you're there and providing them with tools such as Aftercare's Defining Functional Impact tool to provide evidence of psychosocial disability. This will give them examples of the language that's used and what's required when filling out an access request form. It can also be helpful to provide the GP with the evidence that you already have when you go to the appointment. Even if the GP is familiar with the patient, they may not know how they are impacted day to day. By attending the appointment, you can help frame this. Once the access request form has been completed and the supporting evidence has been gathered, they can be submitted by emailing the NDIA, posting the documents in, or dropping them into your nearest NDIA office. Remember, always keep a copy.